Hello and welcome to the Alisa K Book Club, and we are excited because we've got some new faces in here tonight, and maybe some new faces for y'all that are tuning in. If you have any questions and want to participate in the discussion tonight, feel free to visit Facebook.com/The Alisa K Show. And Tanya will be working behind the scenes as the good sport that she is. And you can type in any questions that you may have or any input that you may want to share. This past month we've been talking about the book The Shift by Dyer. And how many of you got to actually read the book? Lisa, you did?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
3 days.
In 3 days?
Yeah.
Or for 3 days straight?
Well, I read it in 3 days.
Oh, nice. Yeah. This is, a small book.
Yeah, and it's just, a lot of it was what I've already gone through. So I'm like, oh, well, yeah, he's putting it into the words that I just can't.
Got it. So when you say you've already gone through, you mean in your life, and so it was
where I'm on my path.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, I liked his, from this to something, meaning back to nothing.
From something to meaning, back to nothingness. And well, the interesting thing is it talks about taking your life from ambition to meaning, and that's what you're saying here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So ambition, talking about, we have a lot of people that have huge goals, that are going after things. You were saying before we started, Lisa, referring to the entertainment business.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very ambitious place to venture into. And probably this book really took you back to a lot of that in your life, because there's that place where you're so ambitious but you almost get in your own way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Has anybody else ever gotten in their own way? Any of you guys got in your own way? Michelle, right on. Gemma? Yeah. Want to give a for instance for us to share?
Nothing is coming immediately to mind,
Okay.
but I often say that I give guidance to other people when I notice you just have to get the hell out of your own way.
Yeah.
No, but I do it frequently, but nothing is coming to mind.
Okay. Well, if it does, feel free to holler out. And the beautiful thing about the Alisa K Book Club is that you do not have to read the book. However, I often find that people, when they join us, they end up wanting to read the book after if they haven't read the book already. Michelle, did you read the book?
Well, actually, yes. I started it out on my phone, and I went and I found it, and it came with the movie.
Yeah. Did yours come with the movie, Lisa?
No, I had to get it from the library.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can get the movie online, I think, T said for $1.50.
Mm-hmm.
Totally awesome.
It is great.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Went through it twice.
Yeah.
Actually, had to watch it again today. And it was so moving to me, I actually want to guide some of this towards the movie. I must have cried 5 times today over that movie because it resonated so much with me. And, or maybe I'm just a little emotional. I don't know. That could be too. What stood out for you, Michelle, in the movie?
Well, he and I, Dr. Dyer, shared a similar path with him being in recovery. He mentioned recovery, and I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like a doctor.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. And he was so peaceful.
Talk a little louder for me, love, just so people can hear you back at home, too, because I think what you have to say is very important.
Well, we both share a similar path. And when he shared about when he went to the restaurant and left because they were going to serve him alcohol, I was like, wow. So I really stuck with that whole, and then we just talked about letting go, letting God. It's all very simplistic, but we make it really difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in recovery they talk about letting go, letting God. Yeah, and that's funny. I actually just said that to my daughter this morning. Letting go, letting God, in a conversation. And it was kind of one of those moments where she was really frustrated, and what I call a moment where you're forceful. forceful of what you want. That's been a huge challenge for me. That doesn't come up quite as often as it used to, but it does come up again, and I am aware when it comes up. I believe to be aware most of the time in shift, but of course I am human, and there may be moments where it's in my blind zone. But that letting go and letting God, so it really is about trusting that you have what you need deep inside of you. And I thought it was interesting in the movie when he talked about, it wasn't, I thought they weren't going to serve him because there was a situation maybe that had happened, prior, but the waiter goes on to say that they had lost they were suspended for their liquor license for serving somebody underage. And so when Dyer gets up, there's 5 kids at the time. I believe he has 8 is what I remember. Now, 8 kids, wow, that's intense. He gets up, he loads up his whole family, he gets back into the car, they're in car seats, straps them in, anybody who's had children in car seats knows that is some work, I have 2 grandbabies, and I know just getting them in and out of the car seats now is a whole lot different than, 25 and 22 years ago. But, and then he leaves, and his wife is kind of, taken back by it, and he doesn't want to discuss it, and she kind of wants to have a conversation, and, he's purely in a space of what he refers to as ego. And so, Michelle, tell me a little bit more of how that kind of hit your heart on a personal level.
Well, because you'll be in denial of that when you have a problem, and when it hits you and you realize, wow, I really need to make a change, and it's a scary feeling to go there. And we talked about, I don't remember how I put it in the book, I don't want to say aha moment, but it's just like this clarity comes over you and you go, okay, it's not working this way, and you don't really realize how you can put so many people out just by your own choices.
Being in that space of ego.
Yes.
Consumed by what you want, when you want it, how you want it.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you guys are just tuning in, we're talking about Dr. Wayne Dyer. The shift. Gosh, T has been, she had the pronunciation of his last name wrong when we did a book prior months ago, and we joked about it because she was calling him Dryer, like Dryer's ice cream. And so on some level, it's gotten stuck in my head, and I have to really look when I say it now in case she's confused me. I'm going to blame it all on you, T.
Okay, thank you.
So, welcome, Nicole. Hi. Thanks for coming. I'm glad you're here. Did you read the book? No? Okay, that's okay. Do you have the book?
No, but
Okay.
I'm writing down.
Oh, that's okay. I just
in the
thought you were
note
in your book.
in the library to make sure I get it.
Good. Well, you know what you can do as well is go online, and I'm sure T can connect you with where she went to go get the movie, and get the movie, because there's a DVD in the back of the book, and it's, that's what we were talking about. It's well worth watching, and I think it's $1.50.
Nice.
$1.50.
Yeah, and I'm a big audiobook fan too, so I'll be looking to see if it's available on audio.
Yeah, I don't know if it is. I actually didn't look for it on audio. I think that's how
I did, it is not.
That's how she stumbled upon on the DVD. But what I found that was really refreshing about it is we get the book on audio and in book format, and it was really nice to watch the movie. And as somebody who personally myself strives to direct and produce feature films at some point, I was really watching the way they laid out this movie, and I'm a fan of taking several scenarios and putting them into one situation. And so they had the different what was it, 1, 2, 3, three significant lives going on throughout this, and how it all kind of connected together in the shift. And that was first of all, it works well for my mind because it keeps me engaged. And Lisa, you're smiling over there. I guess you get that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But you didn't get a chance to watch the DVD yet, huh?
It doesn't matter. I got the DVD through reading the book.
Yeah, if you get a chance, you're going to love it too, because he just does really well on camera, and anybody who has been in the entertainment world is going to just fall in love with him on camera. Remarkable that this is a man of 8 children.
Yes.
And the way he shares his story, he wasn't always the way he is, you know? And he talks about in one situation with this woman who, her kids are out down by the beach, and, you know, she's really struggling with parenting, you know, and how to, and I know that you get this, Michelle, you know, when you're trying to actually control your children's lives, you know, and get them to do what you want them to do, and which is really a reflection of our own self, of trying to manage and control our lives that we often think are out of control. And children are a great mirror into that emotional struggle within. And so he says, well, children have an internal compass, and they'll do what they need to do. And she's kind of listening to it, and then at one point, she calls the kids in to come back and eat, and they say, well, Mom, we're not hungry. You know, they're making sandcastles. And she looks at him, and she looks back at the children, and she says, oh, okay, eat when you're ready. And you can tell she's really not convinced that that's the right thing to do, but she feels kind of put on the spot because he just was telling her this. And immediately I went back, you know, 25 years into when I gave birth to my daughter, and the struggle of, you know, kids don't come with a manual, unfortunately. You know, I don't care how many times you've babysat, how many siblings you've had, which I've had none, and I never babysat a day in my life before I had children, so I really had no idea. But I did have the confidence to know that I would figure it out and that I had all I needed within, as long as I stayed in tune to instinct, motherly instinct, that even if you, and Tia will probably relate to this because she always says she's had no motherly instinct. However, she's a very intuitive woman, and if she was or had chosen to have children, she would have known exactly what to do at that moment. It just was a choice she made. And so as I'm watching this, I'm reflecting back to how many times I tried to control my children. And that's something I really strive not to do and have for a long time. And I think most of the time I'm pretty successful with that, but it doesn't mean it doesn't come with some kind of internal conflict at first. So, any relating to that, Michelle?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me when you saw that part, what came up?
Well, I watched some of this with my daughter.
Oh, okay.
So, and it brought up a conversation that she wants to go to the beach. And I'm like, okay, going down. And I'm just listening to her just chatter on. And I was like, well, let's watch the movie, okay? Watch the movie. So with my daughter, I try really hard not to control her at all either, because I want her to remain that free spirit that she has. But when I was watching that part in the movie, it was amazing to me how humble he was when he was talking to her, considering who he is. And she was just how everything evolved as far as with that woman and the guy who owned the property, and where he put the art supplies in there. That made me cry.
Yeah. Oh, I bet it did.
And then her just realizing that her kids didn't really know what she was about.
And
so that was cool to watch her do that.
However,
she
hadn't shared with her children who she was,
right,
and her hopes and dreams. You know, she kept it away. At the beginning of the movie, there's a scene where it talks about women, and of course this, you know, went straight to my core about how women. Well, it's everything that I work with women about, shining their light, discovering who they are, that they're not only wives and mothers, that there's so much more to them as divine beings. And so as I'm watching that, of course it was very moving to hear a man not only speak it, but you felt it from the depth of his soul, you know, as he said that. And I thought, what a remarkable gift he has, And however, I have a feeling he was not always that enlightened with that, even being the father of 8 children. But that was something that I realized, a very, very long time ago. And obviously, as most of you know, that's why I started Dance Hall Girls, for women to step out of their comfort zone for 2 hours a week and tap into who they are, or maybe discover who they are, because over time they've lost sense of self, and they've been a wife and a mother or a career, which we've all asked for, on some level. And then one day, as time slips by, because there's a disconnect in sharing, like perhaps this woman did with even her children, her hopes and dreams and her love and passion, and then one day you look in the mirror and you can almost see it on this woman's face in the movie, where she's just mortified at not feeling comfortable in her skin, and the fact that her kids, they say to her, "Mom, you don't know how to paint," and she's crushed in that moment because she's never shared that with her children, so they see her differently, and you can see in that moment that she just wants to be seen for who she is in her heart. However, she's shut her heart down, so how can anybody see that? And out of the mouths of babes, sometimes as it's that moment when your children say something so profound, and they can be, this little, doesn't matter, and it's amazing. What else did you get, Lisa, from reading the book?
Pretty much I'm on the right path. That, I understand that we came from nothing, and I like how he described that, and then how we get into the business of disconnecting from the source to try. I mean, the life that I have lived in my short 43 years, I just want to go back.
What does that mean?
I want God to be able to experience life through me and use me for its purpose, instead of me being its servant.
God to experience life through you and use you for his purpose?
Yeah.
Is that what I heard you say?
Mm-hmm. Instead of me being his servant.
His servant. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then what do you feel about when Dyer says act of service, when he goes back to that at the end? How does that resonate with you?
That you don't think of yourself. You think of others. You think of Mother Earth. You think of, how do I give back, not what do I need, what do I want. Oh, I want what you have. No, it's not that. It's where you say thank you. Thank you, Mother Earth, for providing for me. Thank you. How can I be of service today? Whether it's to help an old lady cross the street, or maybe make a little kid smile that you can tell is just having a bad day. Whatever the service is that it needs you to do, you are there and open.
So maybe I'm not hearing you correctly. Isn't that the same thing as being a servant of God? So tell me how that shows up for you. Explain to me that.
Because it's not about me. It's not me. The best way for me to explain it is, when I was an esthetician, people were floored by my touch. And I always told them it wasn't me, it was God.
Okay, I understand that. Yeah.
Because if I were to touch you, you would run. Because I always said, I say a prayer before I touch anybody. And even though they don't pay for it, I do healing energy work on them. Because it's what I'm told to do. It's not about me.
I understand that. Yeah. So I get that because, when I go into the studio and I work with people, I always ask God, the universe, to deliver me the message that they need to see or hear or feel.
Right.
And so I get that. And I always tell people it comes to me and through me that I'm just the body. And hopefully you like what you're looking at.
Most of the time.
So I get that.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you feel that they would run? That caught me back, that literally, Lisa, when you said that, this is what happened in my heart.
Because of all the abuse I suffered.
I understand that. But what about you? I certainly don't experience that when you touch me.
Because it's not me, it's God. It's the God in me touching the God in you. It's not. My life isn't about me, about physical things.
So how are you separate then? How do you, in your mind, separate yourself from God?
I don't.
But if and correct me if I'm hearing it wrong, if you're saying it's not you, it's God.
Right.
So are you saying, therefore, that you are just the vehicle, the body?
Yes.
Okay.
And I basically have killed my ego. I mean, it still raises its ugly head. I'm human. It will always do that. But for the most part, it's not about me.
So who thinks that this wonderful man has killed his ego? You do? You don't think it ever comes up for him?
I'm sure it does because he's human.
So, is it alive or is it dead?
Well,
I'm not saying either or.
You try to silence it. You try to silence it, not kill it. I say that because I am. Yeah. Very intense. But to silence the ego and to silence the monkeys, to paraphrase Indian meditations things.
Monkeys are hungry.
Yes, they are. You have to silence the monkeys in your mind to be able to hear the spirit. And it can rear its head in different ways. But when it does, you need to learn something. And so you need to be still to listen.
So what I hear you saying is it's an awareness.
It's looking at somebody and not seeing their physicality, but seeing their soul, seeing the God in them. And knowing that they may just be having a bad human day. Bless them.
Not the same as like a bad hair day.
No.
For some of it, I don't know.
I'm like, well, it depends on how bad the bad hair day gets.
Oh, that's funny. There's a couple things I wrote down that I kind of wanted to talk about. Dharma. Lisa, this is a good one for you. Dharma. He talks about Dharma. You want to share with us what that is about for you? How you understand that to be?
I would have to find the page. Because I was like, oh, what a cool name. I never knew her name meant that. Out of everything I've read in my whole life, I never knew that Dharma and Greg, what Dharma meant.
Ah, that's funny. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
So living
Sorry.
on purpose, basically.
Yeah, I'm like.
So, who feels in this room like they live on purpose? See, tell me what that means to you.
It means getting up every day, thinking about the day, feeling the day, playing big and playing to win, and connecting with not only the people in our world, but with myself first and foremost.
So
That to me
intention
defines
today.
living on purpose.
That was your intention today.
Oddly, yes.
Yeah, about connecting to yourself is your number one priority.
It has to be.
But is that really the case that happens in your life every day?
It's what I attempt to do every day, yeah? Yes?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I get. I I have a feeling that some people read your intention for the day, and they think that is what you're doing in that day. And it came to me that I bet you a lot of people think that, and that doesn't mean that is so. It states exactly what it is. It's your intention. Whether or not you achieve that is, it's the million-dollar question of the day for you. I don't know. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I know that is the intention of your mind and certainly the hope of your heart.
Right. It depends. I mean, some days I'm there. Some days it is the intention. So some days I'm solid and I'm there. I've already done the work in the morning to be there. And some days I'm not totally there. I told you this morning it was hard to connect. So.
Okay. So there's a part, and do you remember this in the movie in the beginning where he talks about how people wake up in the morning and where they're at in the morning and how that shifts from the afternoon and shifts into the evening, huh?
It's a lie. It's a lie. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me how that resonated with you.
The vibration of the day. So in the morning I'm connected with myself. It's silent. I haven't talked to anybody all day. Just myself and Source. And throughout the interactions throughout the day, and depending on how life plays out, everything can totally shift. So what I thought could be so solid in the morning, I can look back and go, not. And it can be, he's right. It can be a lie. It's shifting. And that can shift back later at night. It just depends on, the vibration, what's happening at that moment.
Well, let me ask you this. So you wake up in the morning, your day is very hectic, and oftentimes your phone starts blowing up, from the moment you set a foot on the floor. So your intention of the day is whatever that may be, speaking from your hopes and your thoughts and then what you desire in your heart. How does that affect you? Because there is a shift, and not everybody is in alignment vibrationally with where your intention is. So how does that affect you, first of all, and then how do you shift in that moment?
How does it affect me when my phone starts blowing up?
Well, not the fact just of your phone.
Well, right, just the connection.
So think about this, though. Hold on, let me go back to this. Think about this. The director in the movie, part of this, like his phone keeps blowing up. He's trying to film, these segments with the doctor, right? And he gets up and he's answering his phone and he's in his stuff, right? Because he wants this other project to come together that he's supposed to direct. And it's like in the entertainment world, things don't always come together, and sometimes projects never even come to light. They don't even get off the ground, and this guy is frustrated, and his mind is a mile away because he's in this, and he's trying to make it work, and he's trying to force it, and then people the universe is not putting it together, or is it? And so I'm watching this because I've seen it happen over and over again in people's lives. I've, of course, experienced it in my own life. So I'm thinking about you right now with that. You're up in the morning. First thing that comes to you is your connection with the universe, okay? Source, God, whatever you want to put a name on it. I don't think the name really matters. But then there's a moment where life starts happening, and boom, it's right at you.
Well, that's where I have a choice. So on the days where I'm not totally connected, it's an easy distraction. So if I get a text in the morning to respond when I'm not done doing my thing for me, then it's a distraction. So depending on my mind, it can be a distraction, but my mind can say, okay, cool, I messaged that person back, I texted them back, so I got that done, I can put it away. However, it just broke that connection that I was trying to establish. So on the days that I'm solid and I get, a bunch of texts in the morning and I don't respond, those are the days that I'm most connected with myself And when I do respond, and it could be hours later because I need my time to do my thing in the morning, it can be hours later, I'm in a different place. So I can respond more from my heart and my soul than trying to complete a task, so to speak.
Got it. So when you're watching this with
it was great to watch that.
He's being interrupted
Mm-hmm.
from the doctor, right? And he's not present, and there's part of him that really wants to be present. And it was interesting because you could see him get into it, and this is why I really like the movie, because you could see the body language, and so he's being drawn in, and this is all new for him, all this stuff, because at one point he actually said to the doctor, well, one of the persons that was filmed says, oh, so-and-so thinks that this is all BS. I forget his name. He said, no, I don't. He's mortified, right? Because he doesn't want the doctor to know this. But he was just saying that. He did think it was all BS.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but he's being drawn in because something's telling him to pay attention. Something's telling him there's more. Something's telling him that what he's doing isn't working. And the feelings that he's having in his body of angst. Anybody ever get that feeling of angst? When they're hostile at everybody and everything. And they're pointing fingers at everybody and everything. And this is why it's wrong. And you're the cause. And blah, 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 blah. Over and over again. And what do we say? We say, take these two fingers, hold them up, and point them back here. Okay? Because the shift starts here. That's where it starts. And so, but when you're in that moment of consumption of your life or resistance to your life, you can't see that. You can't hear it. All you can feel, you have the mind chatter, monkeys, as maybe you were referring to them. I have a hard time with that visual because that is my Chinese symbol is a monkey. I quite happen to think I'm a lot of fun.
Totally, right?
Although
well,
I
you are, but you're not in my head.
Distraction at times too. So there you have it. But I thought of you with that because it's being torn both directions. However, the difference with you and this man in the movie is that you have the awareness and the resources and tools to pull from.
Right.
And I think, let me change that. What I believe and have experienced with you is when you don't pull from what you know, gut, intuition, that is where the hostility comes.
Right.
And the ego then jumps in and does a beautiful song and dance that seduces you to believe it, and then it goes like this. This happened, so-and-so did this. This didn't allow me to connect, blah, 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 right?
Well, and the reality is I did exactly what he did on the movie. I took that distraction and ran with it.
Yeah.
And I'm usually aware. I don't do that too often, I don't feel like. But it's definitely more of an awareness now. Not just from the movie, just going, no, this is my time. I got to get solid before I can help anybody else.
Do you find that you can be patient with yourself even when you choose to accept that distraction? And what I mean by patience is kind of being forgiving of yourself.
Great question.
That is a great question.
I don't know if they heard her say that. What she was asking is, can Tanya be forgiving of herself when the distraction comes up, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And accept it, allow it to happen.
It's frustrating for me because my standards for myself are very high. So to just make that okay and go, okay, I'll do better next time, that's not easy for me. So maybe that's something to work on, but I would rather, for myself, because of the level that I like to hold myself at, just not go down that path at all. I want to have the awareness. I want to go, okay, you can wait, and I will get back to you when timing is right for me, and so that I can speak with my heart and from my soul, because that's when I have all of my answers, and that's when I can best, support, guide whatever it is I'm doing at that moment with, with the person, with the client.
that's such a great question, and I want to go back to that. Can you be patient with yourself? That's come up a lot for me recently with patience. Typically we think it's patience for another person, and I've had several opportunities to sit with that recently where it hasn't been about patience for another person, it's been about having patience with myself and trust in the allowing it to come into my life, what it is that I desire, and knowing that when I'm in alignment with that, it will. And so I think that patience may come back to trust, and he speaks about in the beginning that we all come in, that 9 months, as he refers to, which is actually more like 10, in the gestation period, which of course caught my attention in the movie because of my theory that I believe that everything that we kind of bring into this world is developed in that gestation period, from conception, from an energy primarily of the mother, because she carries that child inside of her and grows that child. However, of course affected by the father, because that was part of the creation as well. However, the mother is the person who is hosting this baby to grow for those months, has many emotions coming to her, and wherever she's at is transferred, I believe, into that fetus. And I believe this very, very strongly. And so he talks about that we have everything that we need. So we don't need to worry about any of that. We come into this with all that we need. Eye color, all of this, it's all been taken care of for us. Everything, our whole body, right? Everything we have. And then all of a sudden it shifts into depending upon the world. And if we could get back to that trust of knowing that we came into this world with all that we needed. It was all created. So basically he's saying that God has created and then hands over this baby to mom and dad. And they say, thank you, God, for creating this beautiful being. And we've got it from here. Unfortunately, I don't think that all mothers and fathers believe that. And not in the sense of baby didn't come with an owner's manual, but because they don't believe that they have that within them to take care of and trust within themselves, and therefore the cycle continues with children. And that's why you see patterns over and over again where anybody who's gone to therapy has said, well, my gosh, first thing clients say when they come in, I don't want to go back and rehash my childhood. I've been down that road with every therapist, for the past 20 years. And, I get that. Who wants to go back over every detail? But there is a connection and a correlation to that. And I think there is a lasered condensed version that I sure hope is delivered, and have seen many people with great results when they've got to the retreat that we hold or done work in the studio, that they can connect to this. But the beautiful thing about his delivery is that there is a lack of force behind it, trying to convince people what they need to do in their life. Because I don't think you can convince anybody of what they need to do. Ultimately, it really doesn't matter. People will do what they want to do. We had an interesting conversation, Tanya and I, at lunch, because I've been in the shift or a shift in my life, and we've noticed we have, for those of you who are tuning in, we have a couple of pages that we do, the Alisa K Body by Body 90-Day Challenge and the Alisa K 21-Day Challenge. And on the 21-Day Challenge, there's, I think Tanya said there's literally one person, because you can see who's on there, who's active. It says seen, and the name, one person active. At one point, we had 20?
21.
21. 21 on the 21-day challenge.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's dwindled off. And so we had this conversation this morning, and I try to be very careful about my wording in the intention of, instead of saying what I won't do, what I will do. And so I said to her, well, for the past 3 years, consistently, I've gotten up every day and written. For the past 3 years, I have done the same thing in the studio with working with people. I'm dependable, is basically my point. Pretty much like clockwork. If you guys jump on Facebook, you're going to know what I do every day. And if you don't see me on there, I guarantee somebody's going, ooh, something's wrong. Maybe she's sick. To the point where, I might even tell people, hey, we're off to the retreat for the next 3 days, and we don't have cell range, and, we're alive, but we just got things going on.
Mhm.
So we had this discussion about why do people just kind of drift away and peace out. And I know why they do. I'm not living their life. I'm not saying that everybody has to be accountable on Facebook, but I'm saying that Facebook is a really amazing metaphor in this experience to look at patterns in people and why they don't stick to not so much their commitments, but maybe something else that's going on within them. And so as I'm watching this movie and I see that director, and he's forcing this other project, and then at one point it comes down to it that they call him and he doesn't get the project. They gave it to somebody else, and he's devastated. He's screaming from the top of his lungs, This was my project, and he is livid, right? And they say, as they've done the other part of where they're filming, the doctor says, I think it's time for a break, and the doctor says, is he going to be okay? And he's sitting there very calm and peaceful, right, Michelle? He's just calm and chill, because he can clearly see what's going on. But he could sit down with this guy and give him all the answers. And no way, no how is that guy going to be able to experience it in that moment. I had a client the other day who, she asked me a question. She said, well, when will this happen for me? When will I experience this? And I said, I have no idea when you'll experience it. I can give you an idea of maybe what will happen along your journey. I can tell you this, if you play and you trust and give everything you got, you're going to get there. I can tell you that. But even if I knew, even if I had a crystal ball, and I wouldn't tell you. Why? Why wouldn't you tell me? So because I would rob you of that experience. I would rob you of everything that you're supposed to learn. And then really, would that experience, if I told you about it, would it have the same value as the journey and the lessons that you received along the way? And so as I'm watching again, this director freak out,
Mhm.
and I'm watching Wayne watch him do this, and I'm thinking, he knows, he's been there. We're all connected. We've all been there. We've all experienced it. Very much as being a mom, you watch your children, and hardest thing in the world. You sit back and watch your children make mistakes that you know what the outcome is going to be because you've lived it, And I've done it. My oldest is 25. My youngest will be 23 in March, and I had to sit back many times and breathe when I wanted to hold my breath and think, hold the space, that they'll be safe, because they've got to learn this on their own, and it's going to be a rocky road at sometimes, but they'll get it because I'm solid. They'll get it because I'm connected. They'll get it because I'm in the work, because I'm stretching, because I'm open to the journey, and that certainly doesn't mean that it didn't come with a lot of ego, and it still raises its ugly head, still, all the time. I said today in a conversation how years ago my dear friend Holly said, Alisa, why do you have to be so hard? And it stuck with me, moment in time. We're talking probably, I don't know, 20 years ago. And I remember I had a reason. I was right there with the answer why I had to be, because I was tough and I wanted this for myself, and I was striving to be the best I could possibly be, and I had very valid reasons as to why I was so hard. And but deep down, I knew exactly what she was referring to, and it stuck with me. I remember where I was standing, and I remember the whole experience. It just went right through my body, and it's never left me. And the ego. Complete ego-driven, of forcing. I've made my life certainly much more difficult at times than it needed to be in just showing up and being me and allowing. And so you were talking, Michelle. We have a question.
We do have a question.
Who is it?
Well, John would like to know. Hello, John.
Hi, John.
He would like to know, is the man's ego different than a woman's ego?
Great question. So I don't think when the ego gets delivered into the world like we do as humans, we were talking about this the other day, suddenly you get put in a box from the second you come into the world. It looks like this. Check mark goes on male or female, right? Yeah, I don't think when the ego is born, I don't think that it gets a check mark if it's a male or female. I think it's very similar. However, I think that the desires that a man and a woman have are different. The desires.
Can I say something?
Please.
I think because of our society in America especially, that women and men are supposed to aspire to a certain level, and so because we grow up living somebody else's life often, our egos are potentially tailored to what they think the man or the woman should be. So that may be the only difference. Like, I really think that I try to embody both the male and female as much as possible, so I don't think it's different. But I think most people in society, and it's very, especially American culture, think they aspire because they're a man or a woman, and instead of seeing the wholeness. So
Well, he talks about this in the book. Did you get that part, Lisa, in the book? Did that stand out to you at all with the male and the female?
Oh, yeah.
And the goals?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to share on that at all?
I don't, for some reason, I don't really remember
Okay,
the
that's
book.
okay.
But what I remember about it is thinking, that I've walked it, I've done this, and it doesn't mean that I'm not going to have my bad days or weeks or whatever, but taking the patience and taking the forgiveness and knowing that I am an expression, and that's okay, and that's great. But no, I wanted to bookmark everything so I could just go back to it and know, but I can't remember.
That's okay. I really, got the DVD offline.
Okay.
It's fun for you. Michelle, do you remember that part where they were sitting talking about the male and the female in there? So they're talking about the different kinds of goals that men and women have, and it was a shift that each gender went through during the process, and I don't remember in detail what they all were offhand, but it talked about, of course, men in the male society want to provide and be providers, and so money is a huge part of that, right? Taking care of their families, so you need money to do that, and it goes down the list. And for women, obviously, family, was top. But then the second one was connecting with themselves. Of course, that stood out to me. Women want to connect within. Same with men, it was lower on the list. The last one I believe that was on the list for women was forgiveness. That was important to them on that. And that one really struck me because Wayne talks about in this, he refers to it as a quantum moment, where he, call it an aha moment, maybe somebody do, but a quantum moment in an experience, and he goes on to explain that. But I had one of those quantum moments of forgiveness myself at my daughter's wedding, and it was pretty profound for me because there was a lot of old wounds that went on between her father and I for years, and we've been divorced for, I don't know, probably 18 years now. I even lost track. I don't know, not even sure anymore. Maybe I'm off on that. Doesn't matter. But anyways, there was a lot of old wounds, I'm sure, on both sides. Of course, I was, as a woman, much more vocal about my pain than maybe he was. His might have surfaced in resentment and anger towards me, but nonetheless, still pain and old wounds. So there's this moment at her wedding where I'm watching her and her husband stand up there, and they look so much, they resemble her father and myself at our wedding. I mean, in stature and just everything about them. And I kneeled down next to him, and I said, wow, that looks like us. And it was a moment of forgiveness where I realized that all of those things, all of those stories that I told myself over and over again, none of them really mattered. They really didn't matter anymore because he's done the best he could with what he has been given, and I had as well. And in that, we created this beautiful being, out of a space of love. And that was really the only thing that mattered. But the shift that happened through my body, it was like a rebirth. It really was. Yeah.
The stories that you're referring to is probably stories through the past 18 years that you found anger and disruption. And were they valid at the time?
At the time when I was feeling the anger and destruction?
Yeah.
That's another great question. Are they valid? Are they ever valid? I guess
I mean,
would ask.
to get over them and to have this quantum moment 18 years later, and to be able to look at your daughter and be next to your ex-husband and say, wow, that was us, and 18 years later, deep sigh, good for us, look what we did.
Mm-hmm.
But can you find peace knowing that in those moments of disruption or anger or hatred or whatever you were feeling, that was a valid emotion at that time? It's where you were.
Are you saying valid in justified?
Almost.
Okay. My ego would have told me in those moments that it was justified. Certainly.
Looking at it now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Certainly not saying that was the right way for either one of us to handle situations. However, the shift of forgiveness comes when you realize that it really doesn't matter because you have love and you have hate. And if you're not in a space of love, then you're in a space of hate. And that is pretty black and white. And it's very difficult when emotions run high because if I want to be right, that means you have to be wrong. And so to have the ability, and that was something I struggled with because we got married when I was very young. I was 18. He was 6 years older. He was young. And I remember trying to take those two fingers and point them back at me. But there was a block between really being able to get that with myself because validation, maybe I wanted to be validated, appreciated. But the reality is I don't think I really had that appreciation for myself, at that time. And then, of course, the circumstances didn't make it any easier for me. But in that moment at my daughter's wedding, to have that profound forgiveness, it shifted everything from that moment. And the relationship has been one of the only things I can see when I look at him as somebody who I love, and love doesn't have a meter. I don't love Tanya more than I love you. Love is love. My experiences with Tanya are going to be obviously different than the experiences I've had with you since we just met last week. But love is love. And so oftentimes we try to define that, especially in a romantic relationship. Oh, I love you so much more, than I ever loved this person. Well, no, love is love. However, if we are allowing and open, and we invite that into our life, and that's what he talks about, a lot of that allowing, then we're going to be able to, one, connect deeper with that person because we've connected deeper within ourselves. And probably at that point, I was not aware enough, and certainly, my ex-husband wasn't aware enough either, for us to communicate on a deeper level like that, and therefore the friction, happened. But at the end of the day, looking at that creation in that life, and that came from love, was a pretty amazing breakthrough. So it was a quantum moment, absolutely. That. I hope we answered John's question. Who else?
He has a couple of comments.
Cool. I love comments.
He says, we tend to let our ego get in the way. As spiritual beings, our ego totally dominates us a lot, always giving us false beliefs. And I asked him if he was open to sharing how ego dominates in his life and gives him false beliefs. John says, validating the ego is much easier for people. Like trying something new and you fail, your ego says, see, I told you that you couldn't do it. Ego says, stay safe and don't let things that you can fail in, such as relationships.
Hang on. I want to hear the last part again. Ego says, stay safe and let things fail like in relationships.
Don't do things that you can fail in, such as relationships. Is a great example, is what he's saying.
Don't do things that you can fail in, such as relationships. Don't take a risk.
So protect yourself from failing.
Right. So
hold on. Am I hearing this correctly? Is that's what he is saying his experience is with relationships when ego steps in?
he's not saying that directly.
Is that what he's typing to you right now? John, you're sly. I'm on to you.
You're
And
sly,
you know how I
John.
do this. I'm going to slide right in. You're not even like stealth-like.
Yeah, he has not said that directly.
Okay.
He's just thrown in his thoughts and comments. And
Well, first of all, John, thank you for having the courage to write this in, because that takes a lot. And I know that people read on Facebook because they tell me privately, and some of those people never ever click like or ever comment. So thank you for that. I'm going to take a shot and say that is people is meaning he. The word people is a filler for he. And I think that's a pretty profound statement about relationships, because I've worked with and know on a personal level many, many men who have their hearts guarded and will not take a risk because they've been hurt. They shut down. They don't reveal who they are. They don't share their heart, fearing that they'll be hurt again. And then not all the time do women help that situation by that perpetuating that men are different than we are, that they don't feel, that they will hurt, that they're only out for one thing. That, I've got a lot of women that I work with that are angry at men, a lot of them. And grew up in a household with a mother who, for years, was very angry at men. And I happen to love men. I love men. I think they're wonderful. I felt very blessed to have been given a son. And I think that they're simple. And I think if we pay attention, that we could probably figure things out together. And I think if we are open, they will be much more open to sharing with us how they feel. So, John, thank you for taking that risk. And it's pretty awesome.
Mhm.
But hey, open your heart. We're all going to get hurt again on some level, one way, shape, or form. You know, it's okay. I've been hurt many times. I'm still here standing with a big smile on my face too. So it's worth it. We got 5 minutes. Is that what you're telling me? They're telling me they have 5 minutes. So, wow, it's amazing how time flies when you can have a deep conversation that's real and authentic. I want to take time to talk about the next book. So, I get people say all the time, will you do this book, will you do this book? And the books come to me. I don't think about them until the moment I'm supposed to think about them, and they come to me. And this next author that we're going to work on this next month, we've done before. His name's David Deida. And we did a book called The Way of the Superior Man, a really, really powerful book. And don't let the title fool you. Women should pick it up if they haven't read it as well. Let me warn you, it will trigger you. It triggered me as well, and I sat with the triggers. The book that we're doing now by him is called Dear Lover, and it is a woman's guide to men, sex, and love's deepest bliss.
So that's the next book, not the first book.
Not the first book.
Okay.
Just telling you the author of that book.
Okay.
This is Dear Lover is the book that we will be doing. I love it. Are you open? Are you ready to open to love's deepest bliss? Wow. Why did I pick this book? Because anybody wonder why I picked this book? David Deida. D-E-I-D-A. Probably can get this on audio as well. Yeah. You're going to dig him. If you've never. Yeah, you're going to dig him. I'm surprised.
D-E-I-D-A.
D-E-I-D-A. Anybody have a clue why I picked this one? No?
Well, no, I'm not going to say.
No? Okay. So the reason why I picked this is because there's a lot of both men and women out there that are searching, hoping to find either the one or to connect deeper within themselves, that don't understand love's deepest bliss. And I think once you can harness that within yourself, you open up all of those doors. And John, you were going to want to pick up this book, I'm telling you, because it's going to be good. Anything that has sex in it has got to be good, right? Yeah, if you can harness that bliss within yourself, you're going to open up that space of allowing somebody else to come into your life. And it's not about a level of love. It's about opening up to love and going
Love doesn't
deeper.
have levels.
It doesn't have levels, yes. Correct. It does not. It's about connecting and sharing in that experience and growing and walking life with somebody who you're willing to stand in the fire with. And let me tell you something. David Deida lights fires, in his writing and his thoughts and feelings on the subject of love, sex, relationship, and connecting to the masculine and feminine. So you're really going to like that as well. So, Dear Lover, I love it. Lover. So tune in next month, same time, same channel. Thank you guys for coming and participating. Thank you at home for tuning in. Please leave your comments on Facebook. Let us know what you think. If you want more, and come back out and play with us. Have an awesome night. Thanks.